Hey, I'm Robin. I'm 27, I work as a marketing assistant, severely underpaid creative meal, and I used to live with my parents and younger brother Tom in a house that always smelled faintly like wet dog and regret. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was familiar. Or it was. Let me start by saying that I wasn't just crashing at home because I liked the smell of burnt spaghetti. I was paying bills, real ones. Groceries, utilities, internet. I even paid for plumbing when the sink exploded. And not once did I get a thank you. Not from my mom, Susan, who preferred reading gossip mags to making eye contact, and not from Tom, the walking smug emoji. Mom's favorite thing to say? Robin, when are you going to get a real job? For example, marketing isn't real because I don't wear a lab coat or sue people for a living. Never mind that I kept the lights on. My dad, Mark, was more of a background character than a participant, never abusive, just emotionally MIA. His hobby was stuffing his hands in his pockets and disappearing from hard conversations. And Tom? My 26-year-old brother, who thought his 15,000 Instagram followers made him an authority on life. He barely touched chores. Guess who picked up the slack? But still, I hoped for something. My 28th birthday was coming up, and deep down, some tiny idiot part of me thought maybe this year would be different. I'd saved up to buy myself a nice cake, real fondant, not grocery store garbage. Nothing big is planned, just a small celebration. Just acknowledgement. A few days before, I had sat down with my parents. Hey, I was thinking maybe we could do something this weekend. Just hang out, eat some cake? My mom didn't look up. We'll see, Robin. We might have plans. Plans? On my birthday. That should have been the first clue. But no, I still let myself hope. Even at 28, I wanted to believe my family might care. Fast forward to the day. Work was nice, got birthday messages and a cute e-card, even treated myself to a new outfit. Felt good. Optimistic. I drove home thinking maybe, just maybe, they'd finally surprise me with something. A card. Balloons. Something small. Something kind. Instead, I pulled into the driveway, and my blood ran cold. My stuff, boxes, bags, random furniture, was dumped on the front lawn. Like trash. I ran to the porch, heart pounding, thinking maybe there'd been a mistake. And there they were, my mom, dad, and Tom. Standing there like they were holding an intervention. But instead of help, I got a punch to the soul. My mom stepped forward, voice sharp and cold. Robin, it's time for you to move out. You're not welcome here anymore. I stood frozen. What? My dad wouldn't even meet my eyes. Just stared at the ground like maybe if he avoided eye contact, this wasn't real. It's my birthday, I choked out. Where am I supposed to go? Tom shrugged, smirking. Maybe you should have thought about that before being a burden all these years. A burden. I was the one keeping this place from collapsing. I was the one paying their electric bill while Tom filmed TikToks in the mirror. And now I was being thrown out like a freeloading stranger. It's not enough, my mom said. We need the space. And frankly, you need to grow up. My voice dropped to a whisper. Can I at least get my stuff? It's already packed, she replied, like she was doing me a favor. You should go now. So that was it. On my 28th birthday, I got kicked out of the only home I'd ever known. No card. No hug. Just cardboard boxes and a front porch firing squad. I didn't cry. Not in front of them. I just moved. Box after box. Hands shaking. Breath shallow. It felt like a nightmare, but I was wide awake. I kept looking back, hoping for something. A crack in their resolve. A flicker of guilt. But nothing. Why today? I asked, barely able to form the words. My mom didn't blink. Consider it our gift to you. Independence. And just like that, I was gone. I ended up in a motel that night. The kind with a flickering neon sign and questionable sheets. I sat on the edge of the bed, surrounded by half-packed boxes and the birthday cake I'd bought myself. And I cried. Not because I didn't have a place to go, but because I finally had to admit the truth. They never really wanted me there. They just wanted what I could do for them. But what if they thought they'd broken me? Oh. They had no idea who they just kicked out. So there I was, sitting in a motel room that smelled like bleach and bad decisions, staring at my own reflection in a cracked bathroom mirror, trying to figure out what the hell just happened. 20 years old. My birthday cake is melting in the corner. No home. No family. Just a box of mismatched socks, a handful of half-used toiletries, and an overwhelming sense of, okay, now what? I'd love to say I had a plan. That I heroically pulled myself together and stormed out to take control of my life. But nah. That first night, I just sat there in stunned silence. 100 scenarios played in my head, all the ways this could have gone differently. All the times I should have seen it coming. The truth is, things had been building for months. Maybe years. My mom had been making snide comments about me. Still being around. Like my presence was offensive. Tom started, joking, about me being the family maid. And my dad? He perfected the art of standing nearby while never once taking a side. But even knowing all that, it still blindsided me. The timing. The coldness. The fact that they chose my birthday of all days, as if to make sure the memory would stay sharp. And boy, it did. The next morning, I woke up with a crick in my neck and a mild existential crisis. I didn't have time to wallow. I had work. Yes, work. Because, unlike my brother, I had an actual job. I showed up to the office wearing yesterday's clothes and what I can only describe as, I've been evicted and emotionally gutted. Energy. I figured I'd just keep my head down and push through the day. Nope. My boss, Karen, not a Karen, but a legit, kind human being named Karen, took one look at me and said, Robin. You good? You know that moment where someone asks if you're okay, and it's so unexpected, so genuinely kind, that your entire emotional dam bursts open? Yeah. That happened. I didn't give her details, just said I'd had a rough night. She pressed gently, and eventually I told her. My family kicked me out yesterday. On my birthday. I'm staying in a motel. Karen stared at me for a second, then handed me her car keys. Go to my place, she said. I'm not home anyway, dog's at daycare, I'm at the office till late. Stay on the couch. I'm not letting you sleep in a motel. I tried to protest. She shut it down. It's just a couch, Robin. You'd do the same for someone else. That night, I sat on a stranger's couch with a blanket that smelled like vanilla and dog shampoo, sipping tea from a novelty mug that said, World's okayest manager. And I felt safe. For the first time in what felt like years. Karen didn't ask for anything. Didn't make me feel like a burden. She just gave me space. A shower. A kitchen. A couch with no strings attached. And that's when I realized something. Family doesn't start with blood. It starts with respect. With care. With people who choose to be there, even when they don't have to. I stayed there for a week while I got my bearings. I made a plan. Applied for a few studio apartments. And every night, Karen would check in, not hovering, just enough to remind me I mattered. Meanwhile, my phone? Radio silence. Not a single message from Mom, Dad, or Golden Boy Tom. Not even a sarcastic, happy birthday. Nothing. And here's the twist, I didn't miss them. I missed the idea of family. The version I used to hope for. But the reality? That was long gone. By week 2, I'd found a small studio apartment. One room, barely big enough to turn around in, but it had a front door I controlled, and peace I hadn't known in years. Karen helped me move in. Even brought me a housewarming plant. You're free now, she said. I laughed. Yeah, free and broke. She smiled. You'll bounce back. You've already survived the worst. And she was right. Because I thought getting kicked out was the end of something. Turns out, it was the beginning. It's funny how silence from family feels permanent, until they smell opportunity. Fast forward 9 months. By now, I'm fully settled in my studio apartment. Still small. Still modest. But it's mine. I have a couch I actually picked. A bed that doesn't squeak like it's crying for help. I bought a used espresso machine off Facebook Marketplace, and every morning, I sip my coffee with the kind of peace you can only earn after surviving a familial boot to the ribs. I also got promoted. My manager Karen, yep, couch savior Karen, moved up, and she recommended me take her old role. My raise wasn't massive, but paired with the lower rent and a total lack of financial leeches, it meant that for the first time in years, I had disposable income. Actual savings. A future. So, obviously, that's when the phone rang. Caller ID Mom. Now, you think my first reaction would be something like relief, curiosity, or maybe dread. But honestly? I laughed. I stared at the screen like it was a sitcom rerun. She hadn't called on my birthday, not once in the last 9 months, and now, she wanted to talk? Curiosity got the better of me. I answered. Her voice was chipper. Too chipper. Like she was trying out for a role in matriarch who definitely didn't emotionally abandon her child. Oh, Robin! So good to hear your voice. I stared into the void for a second before replying. Hi, Mom. Surprised to hear from you. She brushed past it. Anyway, I heard from your cousin that you got promoted. That's so wonderful. You've really made something of yourself, haven't you? Do you mean since the part where you kicked me out on my birthday? But sure, let's pretend we're in a Disney reunion scene. Then she dropped it. We were just talking, you know, your father and Tom and I, and we thought maybe it's time to reconnect. You've got your own place now, your career's going well, maybe it's time to come together again. As a family. As a family. Those 3 words hit different when they're spoken by the people who literally dumped your life on the lawn like junk mail. I asked her, why now? Her voice shifted, just a little. That tight edge came back. Well, to be honest, we were hoping you might consider opening up your home for Sunday dinners. It's been so hard coordinating everything, and your place would be neutral. A fresh start. Oh. That's what this is. They didn't want me. They wanted my apartment. My stability. My space. My success. The home they never gave me, now suddenly repurposed as the next family asset. I couldn't even speak for a full 10 seconds. The audacity was next level. They didn't invite me to Thanksgiving. They skipped my birthday. They watched me pack up my life and disappear. But now, my home is a convenient venue. Then came the cherry on top. Mom added, Tom's girlfriend just moved in with him, and things are a little cramped. He thought it would be lovely if we could use your place occasionally. Just for gatherings. You know, family stuff. Family stuff. The same family that treated me like a spare part with no warranty? I took a deep breath and said, Mom, let me get this straight. You kicked me out on my birthday, haven't reached out in almost a year, and now that I have a stable home, you want to use it like a pop-up Olive Garden? Silence. Then she said, Don't be dramatic. We're just trying to rebuild bridges. No, Mom. You're trying to walk over one. I told her calmly but clearly. I'm happy with my life. I'm proud of what I built. And none of it is open for shared custody. She sounded offended. Like I just rejected a Nobel Peace Prize. Robin, this is what families do. We move past things. No, you move past things. I remember them. And I protect myself from repeats. I ended the call politely, said I needed time to think. But really, I didn't need time. I needed them to realize I wasn't the scared, desperate for approval version of me they left on the lawn. I was done being the afterthought. And just when I thought that was the end of it, they showed up. At my door. But that's a story for part 4. It was a Sunday afternoon. I had just finished cleaning my little apartment, swept the floor, lit a candle, Spotify humming in the background. Peace. Actual peace. The kind you don't realize you've been missing until you finally have it. Then came the knock. 3 short raps. Too casual to be a stranger, too confident to be a neighbor. I peeked through the peephole, and felt my stomach drop. It was them. My parents. And Tom. My first instinct was to pretend I wasn't home. It's a classic freeze and hope they go away move. But a bigger part of me, the part that had grown a backbone and a sense of self-respect over the past 9 months, said, no. You're not hiding anymore. Let's do this. I opened the door. Robin. My mom chirped like she hadn't participated in one of the coldest betrayals of my life. Hi. I said deadpan. Didn't realize we had plans. Oh, we were just in the neighborhood. She said, like this was a casual drop-in and not a calculated ambush. Thought we'd stop by and see your place. You've done so well for yourself. Behind her, Tom was smirking. And my dad? Just standing there like a potted plant with anxiety. I stood there for a beat, then said, You came uninvited, but fine. Come in. But you don't get to pretend we're fine. They walked in, and the first thing my mom did was start snooping. Her eyes scanned the room like she was mentally appraising it for resale value. This is nice, she said, running her fingers along the countertop. Cozy. Clean. Tom plopped down on my couch like he owned the place. Man, this is way better than the old house. You've got central air? Yep, I said, arms crossed. And I pay for it. Myself. Mom turned to me. Well, you know, we were just talking about how much we miss those old Sunday dinners. Thought maybe we could do them here. Family needs to stick together, Robin. And there it was. I smiled. Cold. Sharp. You mean like how you stuck by me on my birthday? When you threw my life on the lawn? My mom blinked, like I'd said something impolite. That's not fair. You were being difficult. We needed the space. For Tom. She didn't respond. Tom shrugged. Look, I'm not trying to rehash the past. We just thought it'd be cool to hang out again. Maybe make this place the new family spot. I turned to him. Cool. So, just to recap, you contributed nothing to that house, did no chores, filmed mirror selfies while I paid bills, and now you want to use my space as a hangout? Silence. My dad finally spoke. Robin, we're trying to move forward. You've done well. That's great. Let's not dwell. Let's not dwell. I repeated, nodding slowly. That's interesting. Because I did dwell, for years. I dwelled in the resentment, the rejection, the silence. I dwelled when I paid for the electric bill while Tom got the big bedroom and Mom complained about my attitude. No one moved. I walked to the door and held it open. You don't get to throw me out, and then ask for a seat at my table when the food starts looking good. My mom looked hurt. Like I was being unreasonable. You're being dramatic, she said. No, I replied calmly. I'm being healthy. They stood there for a moment longer, like they were waiting for me to crack. But I didn't. Because this was my home. My life. My boundaries. They left in awkward silence. I closed the door. Locked it. Sat down on my couch and just breathed. And you know what? That breath felt like a beginning. But this isn't over. Not yet. 2 weeks later, I got a message that made my jaw hit the floor. They wanted to know if my apartment, should be considered part of the family estate. Because apparently, doing well on your own means they think they own a piece of it. You ever think you've heard the dumbest thing a person can say, until they say something even dumber? That's where I was when the message came through. It was from my mom. A group message. Sent to me, my dad, and Tom. Subject line: Family property and long-term stability discussion. I didn't even know people use subject lines in text messages, but there it was, like some kind of fake corporate memo from the HR department of delusion. The body of the message? That's where the insanity unfolded. She opened with, Robin, we were talking as a family and feel it's time we formally address the role your current residence plays in our shared future as a family unit. I read that sentence 4 times before it clicked. They thought my apartment was a family asset. As in, they wanted to claim some sort of emotional or even practical stake in the apartment I rented, paid for, and furnished entirely on my own. She continued, We understand you've worked hard, and we're proud of how far you've come. But as the oldest child with a stable residence, it's only fair that we view your space as part of the broader support system for the family. Oh, only fair. Do you mean like how it was only fair when you kicked me out with no warning on my birthday? Or when Tom got the big room while I paid your bills? My favorite part, though. We're not asking for ownership, just access. For family events, holidays, maybe even if Tom needs a place to stay short-term. Tom. The man-child with the personality of a wet sock and the entitlement of a game show contestant who thinks everything is his to win. At first, I didn't respond. I needed time. Not to calm down, I was perfectly calm, but to prepare. Because I don't do emotion-based rebuttals. I do spreadsheets. Documents. Receipts. So that night I crafted a response. Not emotional. Not angry. Just bulletproof. I wrote, "Hi, Mom, Dad, and Tom. Thank you for your message. I'm genuinely surprised by the assumption that my individually leased, personally funded apartment could be considered a shared asset. To clarify, my lease is in my name only. My rent, utilities, furniture, and maintenance are paid for solely by me. No family funds have ever been used for this property. I was not offered shelter, storage, or assistance after being removed from the family home. Therefore, this space is legally and ethically mine. Access will not be granted. Any future discussion along these lines will be treated as an attempt to breach my personal and legal boundaries." I added a little cherry on top. Also, please refrain from using phrases like family unit when referring to a dynamic that, until recently, treated me as disposable. I sent it. No emoji. No love you. Just cold, clean facts. The fallout? Immediate. Tom replied with a one-line classic. "Wow. You've changed." Damn right I have. My mom followed up the next day with a passive-aggressive essay about how families are supposed to share, and not everything is about legal documents. And that's when it really hit me. They don't see me as a person. They see me as a resource. A backup plan. A soft place to land. Not someone they love, but someone who can help when things get uncomfortable. Too bad I'm not their emotional airbag anymore. I didn't respond. I don't have to. Boundaries, once set, don't need to be constantly re-explained. They just need to be held. And mine? Rock solid. The silence that followed was beautiful. But silence never lasts forever. Especially not when Tom decides to get bold. Because just when I thought things had finally cooled off, he showed up with a bag. And a story. It was a Tuesday. Regular workday. I came home, kicked off my shoes, microwaved leftovers, and settled in to binge a show I've been putting off for 3 months. Absolute bliss. Then came the knock. At this point, I don't answer the door without looking through the peephole. Trauma will do that to you. I expected a package delivery, or a neighbor asking about Wi-Fi. Nope. It was Tom. Standing there in joggers, a hoodie, one backpack, and that patented. I'm not even pretending to be humble. Face he's perfected since birth. I didn't open the door at first. Just stared. Honestly, I was hoping he'd take the hint and disappear. But he didn't. Knocked again, more insistent this time. I cracked the door, just enough to let him know this wasn't going to be a welcome mat situation. "What are you doing here?" I asked. He gave me this weak, sheepish shrug that somehow still came off smug. "Look, things are kinda rough at home right now. Mom and Dad are being ridiculous. I just need a place to crash for a bit. Just until things blow over." I blinked. Not because I was confused, but because I was mentally replaying every moment of him standing on that porch nearly a year ago, smirking while I was thrown out like garbage. The same guy who called me a burden. The same guy who wanted to use my apartment like a weekend Airbnb. "You brought a bag," I said flatly. "Yeah. I figured I'd be here a few nights. Don't worry, I won't take up much space." He tried to step forward. I didn't move. "Tom, did you seriously think you could just show up, uninvited, and I'd roll out the red carpet?" "Robin, come on," he said, already annoyed. "We're family." That word. Family. The most overused, weaponized excuse for toxic behavior in the history of language. I kept my voice calm. "You watched me get kicked out on my birthday. You didn't say a word. You laughed. That was Mom's idea," he said, like that somehow erased the glee in his voice when he told me I was a burden. "Then why are you not knocking on her door?" "She said the house is full," he muttered. "Oh, so I'm the backup plan now?" "Let me get this straight," I said. "They kicked me out and haven't contacted me for months except to ask for access to my apartment, and now they're full, so you think you can stay here?" He looked around me, at the cozy apartment behind the door. "Look, I know we've had our crap. But I thought you were better than this. You've got space. Why not help out for once?" For once. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I took a deep breath and said, "Tom, I'm not better than this. I'm better than you think I am. Which is why I have boundaries. And this place? This piece? You don't get access to it just because your backup plan fell through. You're gonna do this? He asked, annoyed now. Turn your back on your own brother? You turned yours on me a long time ago. Then I shut the door. Not slammed. Not dramatically. Just a clean, final click. No shouting. No insults. Just silence. He knocked once more. Then left. I watched from the peephole as he walked down the hall, pulled out his phone, and probably started texting a manifesto to our mother about how I'd gone cold. Let them talk. Let them spin the story. Because I'm not playing defense anymore. I'm not explaining myself to people who never listened. I'm not opening my home, my peace, or my heart to people who only remember I exist when they need something. That door? It stayed closed. And now, it's time to talk about what opened instead. It's been 6 months since I shut the door in Tom's face. 6 months since the last text, the last guilt trip, the last desperate attempt to turn my life into a community resource center for people who treated me like an unpaid intern for 2 decades. In those 6 months, I've learned more about family, boundaries, and peace than I did in 28 years of growing up in a house full of people who thought love meant leverage. Let's start with the best part. I'm thriving. My apartment? Still quiet, still mine. Every throw pillow, every mug, every weird little piece of thrifted decor? All chosen by me. For me. There's something powerful about walking into a space and knowing it reflects who you are, not who you were forced to be. Work? Even better. I got another promotion. More responsibility, more creativity, more respect. Karen, the boss who once let me crash on her couch, is now one of my closest friends. The kind of friend who doesn't ask, "What can you do for me?" but, "How are you really?" And emotionally? I'm light years ahead of where I was. Because here's what I've realized: setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. When I was younger, I thought love meant sacrifice. That if I gave enough, helped enough, endured enough, maybe my family would finally see me. Maybe they'd recognize my worth. They never did. But someone else did. Me. I saw it when I bought my first couch. When I paid my first rent bill. When I stood in my empty studio apartment with takeout on the floor and thought, this is mine. And for the first time, I didn't feel like a placeholder in someone else's story. I felt like the main character in my own. Sure, sometimes I get a pang. A whisper of the old guilt. The memory of birthdays spent in silence, or the sound of my mother's disappointed sigh. Sometimes I wonder if things could have been different. But then I remember, I gave them every chance. Every olive branch. Every opportunity to treat me like more than a fallback option. They didn't. So I stopped giving. And once I did, the world opened up. I started traveling again. Nothing crazy, just weekend trips. A solo beach getaway. A cabin in the woods. Places where no one expected anything from me except to exist, breathe, and maybe take a selfie with the sunset. I started journaling. Writing down everything I wish I'd been told growing up. You're allowed to leave. You don't owe anyone access just because they share your DNA. Your peace is sacred. Love isn't real if it only shows up when you're useful. Maybe one day I'll share those words with someone else, a friend, a partner, maybe even my own kid. Because cycles only stop when someone says, "No more." And me? I said it. Loud. Clear. With a locked door and a steady heart. I don't know what Tom's doing now. I don't know if my mom still tells the story like I abandoned them. I don't know if my dad still says nothing at all. And honestly, I don't care. Because I've finally built a life where I don't need their approval. I have peace, purpose, and freedom. And they can keep their family dinners. I've got something better. A home. One I built. One I protect. One I belong in, not because someone let me stay but because I made it myself. So if you're out there feeling guilty, second-guessing yourself, wondering if you're the bad guy for setting boundaries with the people who hurt you, let me be clear. You're not. Sometimes, closing a door isn't an ending. It's the beginning.